What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, and this is the second annual edition of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Fantasy Football Primer. Bringing you the latest edition of the Thomas Take and the latest edition, the latest information on fantasy football. So, just wrapped up part one of today's show, and I wrapped up talking about the quarterback position. What are my expectations? Who is my sleeper quarterback this year? Who are some other options that I like? Tune in. You can hear my top 10 rankings. You can get my thoughts on who I really like and who I don't like, and much, much more. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Excuse me, but this is the Thomas Take Fantasy Football Primer, the running backs, where I'm going to go over what running backs I really like, what running backs I'm kind of on the fence on, and which ones I think will do better than what most people expect. So, that being said, we are now in a unique time in terms of the fantasy football running back position. It was not long ago that it was stated that running backs don't really matter in the NFL draft. The running back position is easily replaceable. The running back position is so expendable. Well, that does not exist in the world of fantasy football. I think, in my opinion, in my personal opinion, with the 3 championships that I have won during my time, actually 4, during my time as a fantasy football manager or roster player or whatever you want to call it, the running backs have been the key to my success. They've been the backbone to my team. And I think it's the most important position in fantasy football. I'm going to tell you why. For one simple reason. Running backs get hurt. You have to have at least 5 good running backs. And I know that sounds crazy. But for a position that gets hurt so easily, for a position that does have some guys a little bit long in the tooth, for a position that once you reach 30, you're practically dead as an NFL running back, you have to make sure you get some good ones, and you have to make sure that you get the right ones. So here I am to tell you my top 10 fantasy running backs this season, 2017, the Thomas Take Sports Podcast Fantasy Football Primer. Who are the top 10 running backs that you should take? And who is a running back that I think will blow everyone away, completely out of the water? Who is a running back that I am avoiding like the plague? So let's get started. My number 1 running back for the 2017 season is none other than Arizona Cardinals running back David Johnson, who should be the number 1 overall pick in a fantasy football draft. No ifs, ands, or buts. And I'm here to tell you that thankfully, by the grace of the fantasy football gods, I was able to draft David Johnson 2nd overall due to the fact that buddy of mine, Jeremy, drafted Julio Jones with the 1st overall pick in the Brett Favre for President League. I was so thankful. I praised Jesus. I praised the Lord. Said, thank you for giving me David Johnson. It was a quick, I walked up to the board, put the sticker on the board, David Johnson, boom, call it a day. First pick in the books. The best first-round pick that you could possibly have. The best running back in fantasy football, bar none. Number 2 fantasy football running back, Le'Veon Bell, who, despite a suspension last year, was easily one of the most dominant players in fantasy football. Now, I'm not going to take into account this next player's news. Ezekiel Elliott is ranked 3rd on my top 10. And yes, currently Ezekiel Elliott is suspended for the first 6 games of the season. I'm not taking that into account right now because there is a distinct possibility that Ezekiel Elliott might not face a suspension at all this season, and it could be delayed for 2018. So I'm going to just go with that being the case, and rank Ezekiel Elliott 3rd on my board. Tied at 3rd is San Diego / newly minted LA running back Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon was coming off a terrible rookie season, complete disappointment, but I really, really, really love Melvin Gordon this year in 2017. I think he's going to be fantastic. I think with Anthony Lynn's style of offense, which I know firsthand, being that I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, I watched Lynn run the Buffalo Bills offense, the number one rushing attack last year, the number one rushing attack the year before. He was the running backs coach for the Buffalo Bills before he was promoted as the Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator and then interim head coach. And the reason why I have him tied at third is because if Zeke is suspended, he would no longer be my third best running back, obviously. So I kind of put an asterisk next to that. Number 4 would be Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard was a rookie last year. He was second in the National Football League in rushing behind Ezekiel Elliott. I think the Chicago Bears are going to need him. I think the Chicago Bears are going to use him. And I think he offers versatility at the running back position. He's a great pass catcher, and I think that side of his game hasn't really been seen yet, but I think it will be in 2017, especially if the Chicago Bears have Mitch Trubisky in as their starting quarterback. 5th, none other than Shady McCoy, LaShawn McCoy, the Buffalo Bills running back. I feel sorry for the guy. This offense is very one-dimensional, and he is the one dimension of this Bills offense. Post the Sammy Watkins trade, his stock goes up, but it could be very scary. The box could be stacked for LaShawn McCoy, and he might not do as well as most people think, but I have to go with what is on paper. LaShawn McCoy is really the only offensive threat that the Buffalo Bills have. He has helped the Bills to 2 seasons in a row of a top rushing attack in the NFL. Buffalo Bills' run-blocking offensive line has only gotten better with the selection of Deion Dawkins, who I'm very high on at right tackle for the Buffalo Bills. Very excited to see what McCoy brings to the table. And realistically, this is one of the last few prime years that McCoy has in his career. And I think he knows that. I think he knows what's at stake here. He's around the threshold of 10,000 yards for his career in rushing. So I think if healthy, which is very tough to say, but if healthy, McCoy could put up 1,300 yards and double-digit touchdowns in 2017. Number 6, the LSU rookie running back Leonard Fournette, player I'm very high on heading into the 2017 draft, player that I know will go inside the top 5 of my fantasy football league due to the fact that we have 3 keepers, and he is probably the number 1 ranked player on the board. Jay Ajayi, a guy that was just fantastic for me last season, a fantastic player who ran for 200 yards or more in 3 separate games last season, 2 of which were against the Buffalo Bills. This guy just cannot be brought down. He did have some inconsistencies, though, throughout 2016. One week he'd be rushing for 200, the next week he'd be rushing for 50. So we need more consistency, some more stability from Jay Ajayi. The returning Marshawn Lynch, ranked number 8 in this year's top 10. The reason why I have him ranked number 8 ahead of my number 9 is because I know that offense in Oakland has completely gelled together with Derek Carr, with Amari Cooper, with Michael Crabtree. Adding Marshawn Lynch won't throw a wrench in their plans. It will only make them better. And I put Marshawn Lynch number 8. Number 9 will be DeMarco Murray, a touchdown machine. People could honestly say, why do I not have DeMarco Murray ranked higher? It's because he's getting a little bit older, and he does have a beast lurking over his shoulder at the running back position in Derrick Henry. So, that being said, I got him ranked 9, but I think come season's end, he could obviously be a top 5, maybe even a top 3. Last but not least, my number 10 ranked running back. And it's tough for me to... It's tough. It's tough for me to put this guy in here, to be honest. Devonta Freeman for the Atlanta Falcons. I know he's been successful. I know he's had a good year, but I don't really like the situation in Atlanta right now. New offensive coordinator. And that's not saying that they didn't need a new offensive coordinator, but just the aura around the Atlanta Falcons, I'm not too high on. But I have to look at the facts. Devonta Freeman was a real force these last couple years. But he does have Tevin Coleman in his backfield, so it's a little bit interesting to see how that will pan out. Running back that I'm staying away from, that I'm literally letting go due to the fact that I do not want him on my team entering 2017, and I could easily keep him, is Todd Gurley. Too much uncertainty with this new coach in Sean McVay. Too much uncertainty with this quarterback in Jared Goff. I'm staying away from Todd Gurley, and I love Todd Gurley. I think he's a great player, but I think he's a great player in a bad situation, which sucks. Most people said he was light years ahead of Melvin Gordon. Well, it's had a reverse effect, and I only compare him to Melvin Gordon because they were drafted in the same draft, and we got the results that we did. The first year, Gurley was a stud. The second year, he was not. And it was the opposite. First year, Gordon was a dud. The second year, he was a stud. So, that's my opinion on the running back position this season. Lamar Miller is somebody in Houston that I'm not really excited about. I had him on my team to start the season last year. I was really excited to have him, but this Houston offense is just a group of just hodgepodge players that it just doesn't seem to fit. I know DeAndre Hopkins is a successful wide receiver, but they don't have a starting quarterback right now. Deshaun Watson, who knows when he'll get in there. Tom Savage is okay, but I don't know. I'm a little leery of taking Lamar Miller. And he's young, and he's a good player. But again, a good player, just in a bad situation. I had Lamar Miller and Todd Gurley to start the season. I ended my season with Ezekiel Elliott, acquired him via trade, and Ajayi acquiring him via waivers. So I got very lucky. And I'll be entering my draft with Ezekiel Elliott and Ajayi. Regardless of Ezekiel Elliott's suspension, I know I got him ranked tied for third. If I were to take Ezekiel Elliott out of my top 10 and put another running back in there, it would probably be Carlos Hyde. And that's that. So if you do have Ezekiel Elliott, don't be scared to keep him because this guy is one of the best running backs in the league, running behind the best offensive line in football. And we saw what he did last year with Dak Prescott. They were the most successful rookie quarterback, rookie running back duo in NFL history. In the history of football. Statistically, the history of the NFL, I should say. Immortalized in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, as you can see on my Facebook page. I took a picture in front of both their jerseys. I love the Dallas triplet that they have. Prescott, Zeke, Dez. It'll be very interesting to see how that pans out. With the 6-game suspension or possibly without it. Without it, you're looking at a potential fantasy MVP. But regardless, I still don't put Ezekiel Elliott ahead of Le'Veon Bell. Because Bell catches passes. I still don't put Le'Veon Bell ahead of David Johnson. Because David Johnson does it all. Had over 2,000 yards from the line of scrimmage last year via running or catching the ball. David Johnson should be the first overall pick in every single fantasy football draft. It's not much of a choice. And it's only a choice in my league due to the fact that David Johnson is a keeper in my fantasy league this year. So, that being said, I'm excited for what the season brings. I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Fantasy Football Primer, the running backs, my favorite position in fantasy football. I can't wait to see who I end up with on September 3rd. I'll be sure to give you guys a breakdown of my team, as you guys should as well. Comment in the comment section below on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. I will respond. Thank you all for tuning in. Be right back with the wide receiver primer.